Hello, folks. My name is Fabian Meneses. I'm one of the assistant directors for the Transfer Opportunity Program, also known as TOP, and we are the hosts for this particular webinar. And today I'm joined by my amazing colleagues, um, Carolina Valero and Melanie David, and our director, Pam Blanco. We also have our amazing student outreach ambassadors. So we have Amy on the call, and then we also have Melissa. You'll be hearing from them shortly in the next couple slides of the discussion that we're going to go over today. First, we would like to talk about why, right? Why people choose to go to college. If you don't see your reasons listed on this next couple slides, we would like to hear from you. And again, you could use the chat to share some of the reasons of why you are going to college. Next, we will talk about the difference in transfer options. So if you're a high school senior thinking about the transfer route, or a current community college student planning to transfer, or let's say a parent or a professional staff member who's really just guiding the students throughout the transfer process, this content is really designed for you. Next, we will go over the cost of attendance. We will teach you how to actually read it to understand what you're looking at. And next, we will provide you a map to college to go over the steps to degree of completion. And lastly, we will explore and identify and utilize some of the resources and tools which will play a critical role in your transfer success here at UC Davis. We don't believe in gatekeeping some of this information, so we really want to share so much with you today. So let's first talk about knowing your why. Why go to college? It's a subjective question depending on who you are asking, right? The main reason, my main reason might be different than yours, and yours different reason might be a little bit different than another student. Because some of the most popular reasons of why people go to college. So people attend to expand maybe their potential earnings, possibly explore different career options, discover, learn, or actually like do what they love or are passionate about. Some folks kind of go to college to explore their identity or just potential, maybe gain practical skills. And some people, you will meet a lot of people or new people from all around the world, maybe study abroad, travel, maybe experience a little bit of independence and maybe gain a little bit of financial responsibility. So I'm curious if you could use the chat or any of these reasons kind of resonating with you. Okay, Alexis, thank you. So to help people around the world, yes, absolutely. So again, use the chat to drop maybe a little bit of your why. So regardless of what drives you to attend college, it is super important to actually know your why. Knowing your why really simply means understanding why you're doing something before you're doing it. So your why will really serve as the guiding principles of 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 this. Now, if anyone ever tells you that going to college is easy, it's not. Knowing your why would really just keep you motivated during these times of doubts and frustration. And I encourage you to take about 5 minutes after this workshop to really write down your answers on a piece of paper, on a post-it, or whatever it might be, to really just keep that in mind as you're going through your educational journey. So briefly, for me personally, my why was for to be the first one in my family to graduate from college, to set an example for my siblings and my cousins in my community. I studied what I studied because I was really, I wasn't, I thought that's what I wanted, but it turned out that that exposure to that area of study really allowed me to participate in research, and that led me to a different major. So I was super excited about that. So, Layla, yes, I totally agree with you. New outlook in life, right? So just knowing and discovering why. So before we go into transfer options, I'd like to share some terms because currently enrolled community college students may apply as freshmen, transfers, or even graduate applicants. So it's super important to figure out the eligibility, your eligibility as soon as possible. So if you're planning to apply for an undergraduate degree, you can apply as a freshman or as a transfer applicant. Freshman applicants are students who are currently in high school or have graduated from a high school but have not enrolled in a regular session at a college or university. Transfer applicants, on the other hand, are students who have enrolled in a regular session at a college or university after high school. So students can apply as a sophomore, junior, or senior standing. And again, you may meet with your advisor and ask them about your standing. Your standing while you're transferring, so that you're getting ready for admissions. You know exactly what to put on the application. So depending on the school system, some schools are semester and some are quarter. Regular sessions for semester schools are considered in the fall and the spring, while regular sessions for a quarter school are considered fall, winter, and or spring, right? Summer sessions, so summer sessions are not considered a special or are considered a special session. So they're not regular terms. So based on the introduction, we're going to test a little bit of your knowledge on the next couple slides. So again, we're going to use the chat to engage with you all. So Amy, go ahead.
Now let's go into our first question. For our first scenario, we have Kim, who is currently enrolled in high school and a local California community college. By the time she graduates high school, she will have 60 UC transferable units. When she applies next year, will she apply as a freshman or transfer applicant? And feel free to input your thoughts in the chat and we will reveal the answer in a few seconds.
I'd love to see the chat blowing up. So again, Kim is currently enrolled in high school. So I'm seeing a lot of mixed answers. Are y'all ready? I see Emily saying A. I see Mayo saying B. And Jading saying B. So the answer actually is A. Kim will have to apply as a freshman applicant because she will not graduate high school before the time she applies. Now, if she graduates early and her diploma shows that she did, and she enrolls in a regular session, so fall or spring, at a community college, then she can apply as a transfer applicant. Now, a quick note before we go on to the next question. If a student attends a college summer course program immediately after graduating high school, it does not make them a transfer applicant. Okay. Additionally, completing college work while in high school is still considered a freshman applicant. So for you folks doing dual and concurrent enrollment. So Amy, go ahead.
For our second scenario, we have Lisa, who will graduate high school in June 2024. She will be enrolling at Butte College during summer 2024, and then she plans to take a gap year. When she applies for school in 2026, will she apply as a freshman or transfer applicant? And go ahead and input your thoughts in the chat again, and we will reveal the answer in a few seconds.
This is a little bit of a tricky question. So I see a couple of mixed answers. Okay. Y'all ready? Okay. I will give it another second or two for folks to answer. There's 135 of you in this chat. So we will keep an eye out for that. Okay. It looks like it slowed down. So ready? So in this case, the answer is A. She can apply as a freshman applicant because she graduated from high school and has only attended a community college during a special session and not a regular session. Even if she takes a gap year, she will still be considered a freshman applicant. I know this one's a little bit harder than the previous one, but are we ready for one more question? Yeah? Okay. Hit us with it. Oh, give me a second. Go for it.
Okay, on to our third scenario, we have Joe, who has only attended San Jose City College after they graduated from high school. They have more than 80 UC lower division transferable units. When Joe applies next year, What will they apply as? A, freshman standing, B, sophomore standing, C, junior standing, and D, senior standing. Please input your thoughts in the chat and we will be revealing the answer in a few seconds.
So it looks like y'all are paying attention. Okay, it looks like there's a consensus here. So the answer is C. Joe will apply as a transfer applicant with junior level standing. So the key word here is only attended. So if you only attended a California community college, just because you have 60 units on your transcript does not mean that they were all CSU transferable or UC transferable. So it is important that when you meet with the university rep that you ask about your transferable units so you know where you stand. So in this case, even though Joe has more than 80 UC transferable units, UC will only accept about 70 semester or 105 quarter units of credit work for lower division coursework completed at any non-UC schools to be granted towards graduation. I'll drop a couple links in the chat in a bit, and we'll go from there. But for those students that have maybe mixed records, so for example, you have a little bit of CSU work, private, maybe UC, out-of-state, international records, or other community college records, we recommend that you reach out to the undergraduate admissions rep at the school that you're interested in to clarify where you stand. And the UC, for example, UC Davis, UC Merced, and UC Santa Cruz are campuses that provide the pre-evaluation of your UC TAP account if it's up to date and it's accurate. I'll wait for my colleague, maybe Mel, to drop the transfer practices in the chat for you all. Okay, let's move on. Now let's talk about some transfer options. So as a transfer student, you have many options, but you would need to figure out what your plan is from the start. So you really need to choose where you want to transfer to and create a plan, an educational plan to make sure that you meet the transfer requirements when you're ready to apply. Okay, so let's look at the 4 options on the screen. So from left to right, you'll notice that the CSU system has about 23 campuses across the state of California. The UC system also has campuses spread across California, but only 10 campuses. 9 of those 10 campuses are offer undergraduate degrees and also graduate programs, and then one, UCSF, only offers graduate level or professional education. Additionally, there are private universities all over California that you can apply to, such as Stanford, University of Southern California, University of the Pacific, Loyola Marymount, SF State, or I'm sorry, University of San Francisco, Santa Clara University, and so many more. There's also a lot of out-of-state schools that you can apply to. So for example, you can transfer out of state through the Western Undergraduate Exchange. Lastly, there's also HBCUs, which is a huge system. And this is another option for many students. Although these schools are considered historically Black colleges and universities, they do accept all ethnicities, and HBCUs have about 101 campuses across the United States. And it can be a little overwhelming to have so many options to choose, and we encourage you to reach out to the counselors or, for example, to work with your transfer center folks at your community college so they can provide and really navigate you through the various options here and help you prepare to be eligible for and to apply to these different universities. So let's go over some fit factors. So whether or not you'll already know which schools you want to apply to, or we really encourage you to do this exercise because there are so many transfer options, and figuring out which one fits you and your needs requires some assessment. So there are many other factors that you need to consider, but for today, we're just going to focus on 5. So we're going to go through these with you. So the first one is academic. Does the institution serve your academic needs as a learner, right? The second is social? Does it have the community you identify with, the clubs and organizations, the housing needs? What does that look like? Second, or the third would be environmental. So, do you feel comfortable and secure on campus? What's the weather like? How far is it from my house? Am I used to that type of weather? So some crucial piece to keep in mind. And obviously, financially, can you afford going here? And do they offer ways to pay for college? Uh, to note, we're going to cover some of those in a bit in the next couple slides. And then professionally, what graduate programs do they offer? For example, if you're interested in continuing your educations, and then what are the classes that you could take or maybe internship opportunities that you could be in to prepare you to transfer for graduate school? So in this exercise, we challenge you to put the factors in the order of importance for you. So for some students, the financial factor is the most important. For others, it's really just the academics, right? As you learn a little bit more about the universities that you're interested in, you could plug in your answers to each of the categories to really just help you refine your intentionality. Now, let's pivot over to talking about the community college programs. So, as a community college student, the community college system provides help to facilitate the many programs you see here on the slide. So, depending on where you see yourself at, you might want to capitalize on these programs. They're designed to expedite your transfer process. So, for example, if you're interested in the CSU campuses, you can take advantage of the educational pathways like the Associate's Degree of Transfer, so the ADTs, and the CSU General Education the CSU General Education Pattern Certificate. For students who are interested in both, let's say the CSU and the UC campuses, you might want to consider following um, IGETC, or what it will soon be called CalGETC. And each of these uh, campuses will have, for example, the IGETC or CalGETC worksheet. It really just spells out the classes that you're going to need, and you could download that sheet and plan accordingly with the assistance of your community college counselor. So I'm noticing the chat, and as a reminder, please use the Q&A because we're going to be engaging in the next couple slides with some questions, and I don't want questions to get lost in there. Okay, so please use the Q&A. So for transfer students that have many options when it comes to UC campuses, for example, UC Pathways can serve as a roadmap for major courses. There's about 20 majors that participate in this program. For UCLA specifically, there's a UCLA Transfer Alliance program where students are certified after completing the honors or scholars program at their community colleges and given the priority consideration for admissions to UCLA. There's also the transfer admissions guarantee is the only admissions guarantee to the UC system. And there's about 6 out of the 9 campuses that participate. So UC Berkeley, UCLA, and San Diego do not accept tags. For folks that are interested in the HBCU transfer programs, they also have guaranteed admissions. There's about 37 of them out of the 101 campuses that participate in this to guarantee admissions with the minimum requirements when the minimum requirements are met. So you might notice that we didn't include a lot of private schools or even out of state here. Just the main reason is because there's so many, and they're all going to have the different criteria for admissions. So if you're interested in them, please work with the transfer counselor folks to do that research. A key thing to keep in mind is students who are beginning California Community College in fall of 2025 or later and are planning for admissions to university by transfer can fulfill the lower division breadth and general education, so the B and the GEs, requirements by completing the California General Education Transfer Curriculum, aka CalGETC, or by fulfilling specific requirements for the college or the school in which they are thinking of applying. I'll be adding this link in the chat in a bit regarding CalGETC, so you could learn a little bit more about the transfer pathways. I know there's a lot to do with these scenarios in the next couple slides. So are you ready to answer a couple more questions? Okay, so I see the chat. Y'all ready? Amy, go ahead.
Okay. So here is a question that will help us review the information from the last slide. And the question is, will I be admitted if I complete the IGETC? And then feel free to input your thoughts in the chat and we will be revealing the answer in a few seconds.
So I'm noticing a couple of mixed answers. Drum roll, please. Ready? Okay, so the answer is no. The IGETC or the CalGETC will satisfy freshman and sophomore level general education requirements before transferring to a four-year institution. And just because you completed IGETC, it does not mean that you will automatically qualify for transfer admissions. Additionally, IGETC is not a requirement to transfer for transfer admissions. You will go through this. We will go through this in the next couple slides. So this is why it's super important for you to connect with your counselors and representatives of the universities that you're interested in to make sure that you are on track. Thank you, Alexis, for adding that. Amy, go ahead.
Our fifth question asks, is the UC transfer admission guarantee really a guarantee? Okay, please input your thoughts in the chat again, and then we will be revealing the answers in a few seconds.
So what are we thinking? A, are we thinking B? Okay, so I see a couple of mixed answers. So the answer is yes, as long as you follow the guidelines within your tag conditions. So tag is a contract. And if you abide by all the conditions in that tag contract, then your tag will be in good standing. If you violate your tag conditions, then your admissions will be reascended for eligibility. Again, when in doubt, check in with the go-to person at your school that offers tag, or check in with your assigned rep. So good job, everybody, for engaging with us. So let's go into the minimum requirements to transfer to both the CSU and the UC system. So a little disclaimer here is that we have not included private or out-of-state or HBCU admissions criteria in this PowerPoint because they have different admissions requirements. So if you're interested in those campuses, then we highly recommend that you check out their website along with your transfer center website to see some of those requirements and connect with the folks from those institutions. So we want to put up the CSUs and the UC side by side because there's really a main similarity between these two institutions. So as a transfer applicant, figuring out your major at each university you're interested in, it is the most important step. The most important step is to figure out what is it that you're majoring. So watch out for terminology like impacted, selective, or capped. While you're doing your research, for example, at UC Davis, if your major is considered selective, you have additional courses and a specific GPA requirements on top of the minimum requirements that you see on the screen. So I think San Diego might call there are some other majors capped. That just means that when a major is impacted, selective, or capped, they're just really popular areas of study. So that's why they have these minimum requirements set. So regardless, if you're applying to the UC or the CSU system, you have to have at least 60 transferable semester units. So my tip for you is to take classes that qualify for both systems to determine transferability. You can use a resource called assist.org or go to your course descriptions when you're registering for classes and it will note whether it's CSU or UC transferable. Next, when you're going to look at the overall GPA, for the CSU system, the minimum GPA to apply is a 2.0, while the UC system requires a minimum GPA of a 2.4 GPA. In UC Davis, does require a minimum GPA of at least a 2.8 for most majors and a minimum of a 3.1 for engineering and computer science majors. So again, that's part of the research that I encourage you all to do. For the CSU system, admissions evaluators will look at the Golden Four. So for example, these are a requirement that you need to complete. So for example, it's oral communication, 2 English courses, 1 math, while the UC system requires the 7-course pattern. So we require 2 English courses, 1 math, as well as 4 courses in at least 2 different areas like physical, biological, art, or humanities, or social behavioral sciences. And again, you can use assist.org to determine the UC transferable coursework. The one thing to note is the minimum GPA is not going to get you accepted. To make sure that you're always pushing to the highest grades possible. And I'll drop a couple links in the chat in a bit. But in the meantime, I'll pass it back to Amy.
Our question number 6 covers the information from the last slide. It asks, what are the differences between CSU and UC minimum requirement for transfer applicants? A, overall GPA, B, units requirements, C, CSU system requires the 7-course pattern and UC system requires the Golden 4 rule, and D, both A and B. Go ahead and input your thoughts in the chat and we will be revealing the answer in a few seconds.
Okay, it looks like y'all are paying attention. So I'm glad to see that. While we wait for a couple more questions to trickle in, or answers to trickle in, I'll go ahead and answer this. So this was a little bit of a trick question to see if you were paying attention on our last slide. The answer is D. So the CSU system requires a minimum of a 2.4, or I'm sorry, 2.0 GPA versus the UC, which requires a 2.4 overall GPA. So both require 60 transferable units, and how the courses are determined transferable can be viewed on, for example, assist.org. Please never assume that all of your coursework at a community colleges are transferable to a CSU or a UC. Always make sure that you read the registration description and that you sign up for those when you sign up for those classes. And lastly, the CSU system requires the Golden 4, which consists of oral communication, written communication, so English, critical thinking, quantitative reasoning, which is math. And the UC system requires a 7-course pattern, which is determined only by looking at assist, transferable courses tool. So shout out to everyone who answered. Let's go ahead and move over to the next slide. So there are other opportunities like the dual admissions program for both systems. So who can participate in the dual admissions program? So these are freshman applicants that are selected for dual admissions. If you receive the invitation, you've been selected to participate in the UC dual admissions program. So another question that we get a lot is, what are the benefits of participating in a dual admissions program? So dual admission is a conditional admissions guarantee to a UC campus with the transfer admissions guarantee program. So participants are offered extra support for UC from UCs while they fulfill the requirements. Okay. So why does UC have a dual admissions program? So the UC is really just committed to supporting and expanding access to the UC system, and dual admissions program is designed to help applicants become UC students. So I'll drop a couple links in the chat in a bit. So for reference, this year our high school seniors will receive the dual admissions offer either last week or it should be this week, and then they have the option to opt in by a specific timeline. So let's go over some of the documentation. So another part of the transfer preparation is to prepare documents. So for example, the UC system currently requires the UC immunization and TB risk screening requirements. Additionally, academic records like your high school transcripts, college transcripts will be required. And depending on the complexity of your academic journey, if you have AP or IB scores, international or out of state, private schools, all of that documentation will need to be reported and make sure that you have access to those particular records. Lastly, the UC accepts all applicants to complete their own application material and ensure all information in the application is complete, accurate, and truthful. So in order to submit your application, we will have folks sign the statement of application integrity. So we'll drop a couple more links later, so I could show you all what that looks like. Amy, I'll drop it. I'll send it back to you.
Okay. And for our 7th question, we ask, do I need to turn in high school, college, AP, or IB exams the moment I apply for admission? Feel free to input your thoughts in the chat, and we will go over the correct answer in a few seconds.
There's a couple people paying attention. Okay, so go ahead and jump in here. So the answer is no. For UC, none of the campuses require official records to be submitted at the time of application. We do not recommend that you have access. We do recommend that you have access to your unofficial copies or academic records in case we do ask for them, but no official records are needed until you are admitted to the university. CSU or CSU partners, on the other hand, may ask for official records, for example, like a month or two after you've submitted the UC application or CSU application. But just keep an eye out for those email notifications. I'll go ahead and wrap this up and I'll pass it over to Melissa.
Thank you, Fabian. Right now we'll cover the cost of attendance. We know that money is a huge factor when it comes to selecting a school. And we don't know about you, but we like free education over here. So we can teach you how to properly read the cost of attendance and find money to finance your education. So we can transition to the next slide, please. So the UC estimate for the 2024-2025 academic year are the numbers that you see in the slides, which is just tuition for the in-state undergraduate students. As much as you prepare for admission eligibility, you should also prepare for how you will finance your education. So here's a quick overview of how much the average cost of attendance across all of the transfer options are. Student general cost of attendance for CSUs is about $7,000, and UCs tend to be about $15,000, and HBCUs cost around $8,000. So we know that going to college is an investment, but it's definitely worth it. The UC system has very generous financial aid programs and predictable tuition costs that help bring a UC education within reach. And over 70% of our California undergrads get an average of $18,000 in grants and scholarships to help with the cost. And this includes UC tuition, food and housing, transportation, books, and all of that good stuff. So even if you don't qualify for financial aid, the UC's tuition stability plan will keep the tuition the same for up to 6 years. And this plan applies to both California residents and non-resident students. So in the next slide, we will teach you how to read the cost of attendance using UC Davis as an example, but we'll also add some links in the chat. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's the breakdown of the 2024-2025 undergraduate cost for attending UC Davis. There's a lot of big numbers, but don't let the total cost scare you away. Remember that the financial aid programs that you can take advantage of reduce these costs, and so does our Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan. So right now, we can only try and focus on the first row in this chart, which is the tuition and fees, and it is about $14,000, but the total cost for California residents is about $47,000. So what does that mean? I recommend that you look at the tuition and fees as a true cost, and other categories are recommendations or estimates. So given that those expenses may not be the same for every person, so for example, you may qualify for financial aid, but you can still be on your parents' insurance or find a really cheap apartment. So factors like that do make your total cost of attendance different from the estimates that you see on the screen. And we'll also add some links in the chat regarding financial aid, estimated cost. We can turn to the next slide. Thank you. So as you know, due to the cost of living and inflation, tuition and fees also increase. But by the 2024-2025 academic year, UC tuition for California students is expected to be $14,436. So what is the tuition stability plan and why is it important to know about? The tuition stability plan is a multi-year plan that started in the fall of 2022. And it basically sets UC tuition for undergraduates, both freshmen and transfer students at the time of enrollment, with the expectation that those charges remain the same for the following 6 years of your undergraduate career. So for graduate students, tuition for new and continuing students will be set annually, but will rise no faster than the rate of inflation. So it will basically keep your tuition flat in dollars. And this plan provides unprecedented unpredictability for families by helping them manage their educational costs while allowing the university to provide greater financial aid for the majority of UC's lowest income students. It also helps preserve the excellence of its academic and research programs and expand enrollment for California students. We also have a similar plan that is the UC Native American Opportunity Plan. And this plan aims to make college more affordable and accessible for California's Native American students. This initial phase of the plan will ensure that in-state system-wide tuition and student services are fully covered for California residents who are members of a federally recognized Native American, American Indian, or Alaska Native tribe. And this plan applies to new and continuing undergraduate students, graduate and professional students that have in-state funded degree programs who don't already qualify for financial aid also are a good fit for this program. And then we'll add, again, those links in the chat, the link for the UC Native American Opportunity Plan and the link for the Tuition Stability Plan. And next, we can talk about how you can estimate your aid. So just like you're applying for admissions by completing major preparation and minimum admissions requirements when you transfer, you should also start thinking about how you're going to finance your education. And that includes estimating the amount of aid that you can receive. So we recommend that you use the financial aid calculator to estimate the amount of UCs that you're interested in. So with that in mind, we can talk about how students can pay for college. We'll link the calculator in the chat as well. Next slide, please. Right, so that's kind of our question to you is how are you going to pay for college? Do you have a plan yet? We have a few options that students use. You can work and save money, which I personally did to cover my living expenses for my first year. You can also utilize a 529 plan. If you have one, a 529 plan is when usually your parents save money on the side to be used for college expenses. This is a common practice for families that have high expected family contribution. But alternatively, if you're a permanent resident, US citizen, AB 540, you can also apply to FAFSA and CADA, which is the California Dream Act. So you can qualify for grants and scholarships and loans through these plans as well. And we can also talk about the type of aid that you can receive in the next slide. Right, so here are some options for financing your education, right? So you can have financial aid if you're California resident, or if you are AB 540. you have financial aid process through FAFSA, and that qualifies you for grants and scholarships. But we also have specific UC financial aid programs. So we have the Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan. This is across UCs. Basically, if your family's annual income is $80,000 or less, you qualify for financial aid. You don't pay tuition or fees under this program. And we also have the Middle Class Scholarship Program. So it also provides funding to help middle class students attend UCs or CSUs. And this program covers between 10 to 40% of system-wide tuition and fees. And we also have the California Dream Loan Program, and that provides eligible and documented AB 540 undergraduates with the option to borrow loans to help cover the cost of attending the UC. So for non-California residents who are not eligible for state and university need-based funding, we'll also add a link in the chat in regards to that. But again, this is just a couple of ways that you can start to think about how you're going to finance your education. But with that in mind, we can transition to steps that you need to complete your degree. So that will be the next slide. I really like this graph. So in order to have a successful transfer process, students need to understand how degree completion works. And we always encourage students to go to the university catalog of their school of interest and to get familiar with the requirements. So for degree completion, we have three major steps or milestones. The first step is that while you are at community college, you're going to be taking classes to prepare you for your major and for general education courses. So make sure that you're picking classes that are transferable to both UCs and CSUs. We recommend assist.org for that. If you don't complete your IGETC or CalGETC, or get an associate's degree for transfer, you will have to follow the general education pattern at your school upon transferring. So that's something to consider. The second step is that once you've successfully transferred to your four-year institution, you will have to take upper division courses. And that will either fall within your major preparation or just general preparations that your school has. And later on, you'll also have to take university or college graduation requirements before you can get your degree. And then finally, you'll be ready to graduate. But a little bit before that, you'll have to submit a graduation application to the registrar's office. And at that time, graduation evaluators will process your application. They'll audit your coursework and requirements, and then you'll be approved for graduation. So this slide serves as a map to college and degree completion. So we hope that this is useful to you. Okay, this is the best, saving the best for last. We're going to look at resources available at your college. And we want to identify these resources and encourage you to use them as much as possible. So did you know that higher education institutions are mandated by the state of California or federal governments in general to offer services as long as they accept state and federal funding? So as the land grant recipients, and because California Community College system is a public system, they offer many support programs and services that you see here on screen. So an example for this would be DSPS, Foster Youth Success Initiatives, Veteran Services. I see Mesa. I was a part of Mesa when I was in my community college. And there's many other programs that can fall within your major and support you, or have cultural centers and programs like Umoja and basic assistance like Writing and Tutoring Center. So this is just to let you know that even in your community college, there's a lot of help and help services that you can use right now. You don't have to wait until you transfer. So we would love to know what services you have used in your community college. If you have, you can put the answers in the chat, and we also put a link in the chat about the educational services that we have here. Nice. I'm seeing Umoja, I'm seeing Mesa. Okay, DSPS. We'll transition to the Transfer Center. This is another resource that you should take advantage, because I'm assuming, yeah, all of you are transfer students. The Transfer Center started as a pilot program in 1985. It was initiated to improve transfer success and accessibility to UCs, CSUs, and independent colleges statewide. The focus was historically on underrepresented students, but at first these services were only initiated in 23 community colleges. But fast forward to now, all of California community colleges have a transfer center, and they assist students with all transfer-related questions. They have, computer labs, they have assistance for students during the application cycle, college fairs, tours, workshops, things like that. And on top of that, the Transfer Center provides counseling. So we always recommend that students meet at their community college Transfer Center counselor to establish an educational plan and discuss their career options. We also suggest that students share their education and transfer plans with a top coordinator or any university representatives during their first meeting. But if you have already attended any of these Transfer Center workshops, the information on this PowerPoint should be familiar to you. So with that, we're going to have a question. Okay, can the Transfer Center connect you to an admissions representative? You can put your answers in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of A's. That's really good. That's the correct answer. The answer is yes. The Transfer Center is the main source between undergraduate and graduate institutions. They have a roster of people who they're assigned to, and given the school, they can connect you to a person, to a representative from the school. And you can also call the admission hotline at your school if you're interested in that. And that can also be a really effective approach. So again, congrats to everybody who answered with A. Now we'll move on to the next question. Can the Transfer Center provide career advising? Put your guesses in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of A's. And that's actually fantastic, because yeah, that's also correct. The Transfer Center is the expert in everything transfer related at your community college. They can help you navigate transfer applications like CSU, UCs, and also Common App applications. So right now you're attending a top webinar, and we love to help with transfer admissions questions, but we're a supplemental program. So the main one that you can go to at your community college should be your Transfer Center, because, for example, you might want to go and transfer to a private institution, and unfortunately we can't really advise on that, but your Transfer Center definitely has representatives from schools like USC or others that you can transfer to. So with that, we'll move on to other available resources. We've already mentioned assist.org. So it's a great place to find UC, CSU transferable courses. It has articulation agreements and major guides to help identify what courses transfer from your community college to your transfer school of choice. And if you're interested in UC campuses, you should also create a UC TAP account as soon as possible. That is short for the Transfer Admissions Planner, and it is a UC tool that helps transfer students track their progress. It also allows for UC reps to do a pre-evaluation and give you tailored advising. So TAP is also the home of the Transfer Admissions Guarantee, or TAG. And another resource is that when you open the TAP website and you go to the support program section, you can find many transfer preparation programs at each UC campus, like top here at UC Davis. And another resource to note is that when you open the TAP website and go to the support program section, you can find many transfer preparation programs at each UC campus. So again, your go-to support for all transfer questions is your Transfer Center. Get to know your counselor and Transfer Center staff as soon as possible. and they can connect you to the university representatives that you're interested in to make your transfer process as smooth as possible. But now TOP is also bringing UC admissions to your campus. Sorry about that. So again, we'll link a link in the chat so you can find your advisor. But we're almost to the end of our presentation. Last but not least, we want to talk about some important dates for transfer applicants. So yeah, next slide, please. I highly recommend anybody who's watching to take a screenshot of the important dates for transfer applicants. Right now, as we're approaching summer, it starts to like the cycle starts all over again. So the UC application opens in August. Later on October 1st, the CSU application portal opens for fall admissions. You have until the end of November to complete your applications. And then after that, you can worry about submitting your financial aid applications, your transfer academic update, which is shortened for TAU. And that is where you update any of the classes that you're taking towards the last year of or last semester of your community college before your transfer. And then around March and April, UC campuses will release their decisions for admission. And you have usually until the 1st of June to submit your intent to register in the UCs. So with that in mind, we can move to some takeaways. I really hope that you liked this presentation and you found it useful. So again, please drop any remaining questions that you have in the chat. We covered a lot during this session, so we're going to end our presentation with some takeaways. Define why you're going to college, understand the transfer options of what your community college offers, and analyze your fit factors before finalizing your educational plan. Be familiar with admissions requirements and the timeline, and do not miss any important deadlines, and also think about how you're going to fund your education. Lastly, the best way to understand the transfer process is to look at steps to degree completion. But with that, we're going to open the chat for any remaining questions in this webinar. So I'll leave that to Fabian, but thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Melissa and Amy, for assisting. And shout out to Carolina and Mel for handling the chat, and Pam for handling the chat. I dropped a whole bunch of links for you all, but just keep in mind that to find my advisor is extremely important. And updating or creating your UC TAP is key for us to know that you need assistance or would like to engage with us. Have a great evening, everyone. Huge thank you to Melissa and Melanie and Pam and Amy and Carolina for helping. Have a great evening, everyone. And for those of you taking summer school, good luck with summer. We'll be in touch. Okay. Bye, everyone.